Separation of concerns is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it reduces complexity and improves maintainability. On the other hand, it creates more code, abstractions, additional data structures, and adapters. And that's where the doubt begins. Some developers call that extra code unnecessary bloat. They argue it increases maintenance effort and adds complexity instead of reducing it. But that conclusion is wrong. Let me walk you through 4 concrete cases that show why. Consider this domain object. Among other properties, it contains a few enums. During the application workflow, this object also needs to be persisted in some storage. A simple solution is JSON. Most JSON libraries handle this without additional code and even convert enums to and from strings automatically. The solution looks clean and feels convenient. But imagine that once the data is stored, a team member who is not aware of the persistence details renames one of the enum values because the new name fits the domain better. Everything still compiles. And unless you have explicit backward compatibility tests, there's a good chance all tests remain green. In the worst case, this issue only appears after rollout to production. A more robust approach is to implement persistence with explicit mapping from the start and use custom conversion from enum to string. Yes, this adds a bit of code. But now compare that small effort with the potential cost of a production issue. Let's look at another example. Today, libraries exist for almost everything, and they are very convenient to use. They provide well-designed APIs, their own request and response objects, and sometimes even a complete domain model. It is tempting to use these types directly across the codebase. It is convenient and saves time. But what happens when the vendor introduces a breaking change, the library is no longer supported, or the license model changes? If our application logic depends directly on those types, we effectively give that vendor influence over our codebase. You might think adapting to a breaking change or replacing the library is manageable. But these situations usually arrive unexpectedly and often at the worst possible times. And the larger the codebase, the more painful this becomes. A simple way to reduce this risk is to introduce a thin anti-corruption layer. We define our own interfaces, which expose our own data structures instead of the library's types. The implementation acts as adapters, converting between the two. So again, weigh the relatively small effort of introducing such a thin anti-corruption layer against the control we give to one or even multiple library providers over our codebase. Another common case is the UI. Modern UI frameworks offer powerful data binding, making it convenient to use domain and application objects directly in the UI. It feels efficient to skip dedicated view models or similar bloat. But the UI and the domain have different responsibilities. The UI often works with partially initialized objects to simplify input validation and provide user feedback. Domain objects, on the other hand, should enforce correctness and consistency. When we combine both concerns in one object, we usually compromise the domain. We introduce APIs that exist only for the UI, and we allow states that are not truly valid. Over time, that complexity accumulates inside the domain model. Web applications add another challenge. Domain objects are serialized before being sent to the browser. Even simple refactorings, like renaming a property, become risky because frontend and backend use different languages, and refactoring tools cannot detect that two types represent the same concept and must stay in sync. Eventually, developers hesitate to refactor because they fear breaking the UI. Yes, heavy UI testing can reduce that risk, but those tests are expensive and fragile. A cleaner approach is to separate domain objects from view models, which are designed specifically for the UI. The presentation layer then handles the conversion between them. So again, weigh the relatively small effort of introducing dedicated view models against the long-term cost of coupling UI and domain. There's one more case I want to mention, because it is often underrated: tests. Most tutorials and books about testing, especially unit testing, show examples where tests interact directly with APIs and objects from the application logic and domain. And I understand this approach. It feels natural. I want to test that class, so I call its APIs. But this creates tight coupling. Every structural refactoring causes ripple effects in the tests. That weakens their role as a safety net. If tests must change together with the implementation, they protect structure, not behavior. In fact, a stronger indicator that a refactoring is safe is having no test changes in the commit while all tests still pass. Furthermore, I have seen many projects where adjusting tests during refactoring takes as much effort as the actual change simply because of this coupling. And just like in the UI case, developers start avoiding refactorings because the cost feels too high, which gradually leads to worse code. My preferred solution is to treat tests as another kind of UI and follow the same approach used for real UIs. Therefore, we introduce a dedicated test API with its own data structures, similar to the presentation layer and view models of the real UI. In fact, UI and tests often share similar needs, so we can sometimes reuse the presentation layer and the view models for tests as well. So again, ask yourself, what creates more long-term cost? Introducing a dedicated test API with clear boundaries, or tightly coupling tests to internal application design? Less is more can be a useful guiding principle, but as these examples show, it should not become a dogma. Skipping anti-corruption layers, DTOs and adapters may reduce visible boilerplate, but it increases coupling, which leads to higher complexity, lower maintainability over time, and systems that are harder to evolve. And there's one more factor that changes the balance significantly. In the past, the strongest argument against clear separation of concerns was the additional effort required to write and maintain all those data structures and adapters. But with AI integrated into our IDEs, that argument is much weaker. Now we can focus on designing clean APIs and clear data structures to separate each concern properly. And then we let AI generate the conversion layers. For modern LLMs, this is a straightforward task. So considering the clear benefit of separation of concerns and the reduced implementation effort thanks to AI, is there really any excuse left not to do it?